I'm the Director of Alumni Leadership and Career Engagement here at Smith. My colleague Dana and we lead the Alum Career Program. So this is a program that is geared towards supporting you through various career challenges or events that you may be experiencing. We're hoping to really offer you support at every stage along your career and around different topics that may be relevant to folks at different times. I'm also a Smith alum. I'm class of 2010, Albright House. And I really enjoy just sharing the screen, the virtual space with my fellow Smithies on this call. So just again, really appreciate all of you joining us today. I am going to introduce Sabina and talk a little bit more about our content for today. So we are so lucky to have Sabina Nawaz here today with us. Sabina is an elite executive coach who advises C-level executives and teams at Fortune 50 corporations, government agencies, nonprofits, and academic institutions around the world. She keynotes large events and teaches faculty at several universities. During her 14-year tenure at Microsoft, she went from managing software engineering teams to leading the company's executive development and succession planning efforts for over 11,000 managers and nearly 1,000 executives. She has written for and been featured in Harvard Business Review, The Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fast Company, NBC, and Salon, just to name a few. Sabina graduated from Smith in 1988 with a major in computer science and a minor in electronics. And Sabina is the author of You're the Boss, Become the Manager You Want to Be and Others Need, that has been published by Simon & Schuster this month. So we hope you might buy a copy and support your fellow Smithy. In today's session, Sabina will draw on her wealth of experience to help us rethink how pressure shows up in our work and our leadership, and how to turn it from something that wears us down into something that fuels growth and connection. So I am so thrilled to now hand it over to Sabina to get us started today. Thank you so much, Sabina. Take it away.
Thank you, Christy. This is so exciting to be back here with Smith alums, back here virtually, of course. And Christy, your background image is just bringing back such fond memories of campus. I'm going to have to make the trek from Vancouver to Northampton at some point in the near future, especially for the fall colors. Thanks for those of you who did turn on your video. It does help with our interaction. Obviously, understand that some of you cannot. When you do ask questions or add comments, it'd be great if you could show up on video so we know who's speaking and we can interact directly there. It's been really interesting to look at your comments in chat. How many of you who did not, and when I say how many of you, I'm looking for a show of hands, and if you're not on video, you can use the react button show of hands. How many of you would say you find something in common with the pressures that are stated in that chat? The tension between work and life, between managing kids and their activities and your own job, with layoffs, wondering how to do more with less when the ranks have been thinned and you're stuck in a middle management position. The challenges of a hostile work environment, which I'm assuming you still have to be in. Wow. So that's a lot of different pressures. Raise your hand if you face those pressures, if you find it common. Yeah, wow. So I'm seeing a lot of people exactly raising their hands. And pressure is just never ending. In some ways, it keeps piling up. Somebody said, well, looking at retirement now, it's a little bit better than mid-career. And then there are pressures in the world, in politics and climate and in geopolitics and economics. All sorts of pressures keep landing on our plates. So let's run a poll and see how much pressure you are facing these days. You should see a poll pop up. Yeah, so look at that. As we look at the poll results, the highest number is 9 out of 10. A third of you are feeling pressure at a 9 out of 10 right now. And the second highest is actually they're about the same, 20% across 6, 7, and 8. And there's 10% for the 3. We ought to learn more from the people or person who's at that 3. But in general, it's pretty high. It's pretty high. Now, we're going to be talking about how to deal with pressure. And to do that, I'm diving into the key thesis of my book, which you see behind me, You're the Boss, which is busting a common myth. You've heard the term power corrupts. I believe that is wrong. Power doesn't corrupt, pressure corrupts. Under pressure, our brain goes into survival mode. Our instincts take over and hijack our brain. We stop thinking, we start reacting. We raise our voices. We provide harsher criticism than needed, and then sending colleagues scuttling with their own pressure gauges redlining. And you know what happens when you're a manager who is treating employees that way? Employees start to play video games, or as research shows, they even deliberately make mistakes. Think about that. Just to get back at your boss, you are deliberately sabotaging your own results. So of course that raises pressure for everybody. And then I said power corrupts is wrong. What actually happens with power is it's the great divider. It isolates you. It doesn't just give you a bigger title, it changes how people look at you and how you look at people. So you become the last one to know the effect you're having on others because of how you're acting out under pressure. For me, I was a lousy manager when I worked at Microsoft in my last job there. That wasn't always true. At first, I managed teams that built software with my degree from Smith and UMass in computer science and engineering. And people told me I was the best boss they'd ever had. I coached them, I cared about them. Those were great years. And then everything changed. I was putting on lipstick for the first time in 5 months, getting ready to go back to work after parental leave. And my assistant, Lori, calls me frantic. Where are you? Steve expects you in 30 minutes. Lori proceeds to read me the memo I'm supposed to discuss with Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, as I hit warp speed somewhere on the on-ramp. And that set the tone. Inbox overflowing, calendar packed, an infant at home, no sleep, no peace, and no patience. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Yeah, seeing the hands raised again. Thank you, by the way, for the interaction and the hands raised. It helps keep us going here. And so what do I start doing? Rushing to meet deadlines. I tell myself, I don't have time to provide detailed explanations, let alone repeat them. Worried I would look incompetent or my team would look incompetent to high-level executives, I started to micromanage. Once, Steve was concerned that we'd left the umlaut, the 2 dots over a vowel to indicate a specific pronunciation of the printed name of a participant to an event we ran for him and Bill Gates. I had Janice on my team triple check every single name and then make it a practice for every future conference. And whenever somebody came to my office, I would turn sideways, leaving all 10 fingers on the keyboard indicating, I'm very busy, you're less important than me, spit it out and move on. And I thought I was being efficient until my colleague Joe stops by. And here I am. Hi, Joe. Joe looks me in the eye and I know he's about to give me some bad news. And immediately my shoulders tighten. And Joe says, Zach is crying in his office because of what you said. Now Joe has my full attention, but I can no longer make eye contact with him because I'm so ashamed, so guilty. My gut falls to the floor. My entire body goes hot with shame. And I think to myself, how did I get here? How did I go from being caring and nurturing to this? Someone people apparently fear and really don't like. I wasn't a bad person, but I was a boss behaving badly under pressure. And the worst part was that I had no idea. Now, have you ever worked with somebody who had no idea how they were coming across under pressure? Yeah. Now, do you think it's possible that you also might not have an idea of how you're coming across under pressure? right? So yeah, I drink a glass of water, I cross the hallway, knock on Zach's door. This is when we were all at work physically. Go for a walk with me, I ask. And as we're walking, I say, Zach, I am so sorry. There is no excuse for how I acted in this meeting. Zach's eyes brim with tears, and I realized this is what I want, to treat people with humanity. Because nobody wants to be that jerk who acts out under pressure or abuses power in the name of productivity. And nobody wants to work for that umlaut either. Which brings me to us over here. How many of you would say, like me, under pressure, you have acted at some point, not always, at some point, in a way that you are not proud of, or that somebody gave you tough feedback, or you would really cringe if that showed up on Glassdoor or TikTok or YouTube? How many of you have acted under pressure in a way that you're not proud of? Yeah, yeah. Welcome to the human condition. Now, here's the good news. How many of you have also acted under pressure that you are proud of? Yeah, I would hope that your hands have gone up for both those things. Because here's the good news. Pressure is also good. It isn't the enemy, it's the test. It turns coal into diamonds, as we've all heard over and over again. It also is the way to recognize the resilience, creativity, and brilliance that you didn't even know you had. So it's an invitation to grow. It doesn't have to define you, it can refine you. And this is one of the reasons I've written this book. After collecting over 12,000 pages of data, where I've interviewed over 1,000 people, I've identified the most common pressure pitfalls people fall into. And the number one pressure pitfall that gets in the way, that causes us to act out in the way I acted out with Zach, is something called the trap of the sole provider. And that's SOLE, soul. This is where we think we're the only one who can do this, or we're the only one who can do this really well, or do it faster than anybody else, or we're the only ones who can caretake other people who are also under pressure, and I'm just going to jump in and do this for them. Now, obviously, there are many noble intentions and reasons why we can be the sole provider. But what might be some downsides to being the sole provider? And I'd love to hear from people verbally, if possible. And when you're speaking, if you wouldn't mind turning on your video and shouting out some thoughts. What are the downsides to being a sole provider?
Burnout.
Burnout, right? Because you're raising your hand for everything. You're there for everything. What else?
You might start resenting people.
Yes, Maggie, because suddenly you start to now feel like a martyr and like, why am I the only one? Yeah. What else?
Frustration.
Frustration. Yes. Frustration about what?
Everything. People, what you're doing.
Yes.
Probably a lot of brain fog too. You can't think clearly around your
Yes.
goals.
Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. So you're exhausted, you can't think clearly, and then you're frustrated at everyone else. In chat, you don't honor your team. I'm wondering what that means, if you're comfortable sharing.
You also don't take time off.
You don't take time off.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, if you take control, you don't let your team members participate.
Yes. You're not letting them participate. And when you don't let them participate, what happens?
They feel demotivated.
They feel demotivated. And when they feel demotivated, what else happens?
They become less productive.
Uh-huh. And then what happens?
You've got more pressure.
Yes, exactly. So you see how this becomes this really vicious cycle of the more you jump in, the less they're like, well, why bother? She's going to redo the slide deck anyhow. I'll just let her do it. Or whatever else that's happening to them, and they're getting demotivated. And now you have more stuff that's piling on your plate because you are the sole provider. You're the only one who can do it. And it doesn't, yeah, you develop a God complex, as it's showed up in chat. And I also love this other comment, Maggie, about not realizing that there's a slight possibility that someone might actually do a better job than you. So you're taking on everything on yourself and continuing to expand exponentially the pressure that's on you. You're also continuing to expand exponentially the frustration and stymieing the rest of your team, not honoring them. You're also never growing them, because what you have trained them to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the show while you become the hardest working person in the room. And you know what? They're going to let you do that. So what do we do with this sole provider situation? The motto of the sole provider is, I've got this. I've got this. And I had a client, Ankita, whose motto wasn't just, I've got this, but I've already taken care of this. She had gone through a day's worth of work before her colleagues even woke up. And she would show up to meetings with the first draft of things. And she was the manager of that team. And I said, when you show up with the first draft, what are you hoping to do? She said, well, it's going to go a lot faster. Is it? Oh, yeah, because, we just come up with the first draft and then boom, we can wrap it up much, much more quickly. And I said, does anyone else ever provide any ideas or challenge you? No, but that's because I've put a lot of time into the first draft. So again, it's just I, me, and myself that we're listening to in these documents, in these conversations. And we're not training, we're not growing the capacity of anybody, we're not engaging in the diversity of thought and ideas and brainstorms. So there are, there's another thing here too, is that there's a facade that we can maintain when you're a sole provider that hides our insecurities. Because what if somebody is better than me? Does that mean I become redundant, especially in this age of layoffs? What if somebody is smarter than me or can do something faster than me? Does that mean I'm aging out now of the workforce? Am I going to be as popular? Am I going to be as liked? So we have all these hidden desires, and there's an entire chapter called Hidden Hungers in my book where we dig into that. So there's of course good reasons. Who wouldn't want to take care of people, do things fast, do things well? But there's also all these other hidden agendas that are not helpful and that add to pressure for yourself and for others. There are 4 kinds of sole providers, and I'm going to list them all out. And the first thing we're going to do, so what do we do with these 4 kinds of sole providers? The first step is diagnosis, is to understand which are your tendencies, which ones are you most commonly gravitating towards. Now, if you're like me, you will have more than one sole provider tendency. I tend to have 3 of the 4 that I'm going to show you. And what we're going to do in 2 slides is first I'm going to show you the 4 types and what each of these types tends to say. What is their signature statement? And oh, when they say this thing, they must be this kind. And then I'm going to show you a second slide about what this kind of person tends to do. As you look at these slides, I'd like you to write down, identify which one you are, and write down what do you tend to say and what do you tend to do. And then we're going to do a poll again after that to see which types are present in this meeting today. So the first kind of sole provider is the caretaker. And the caretaker says, this is a particularly bad time of year. I'll help them out just this once. I was just in a meeting with the vice provost of a university in Massachusetts, not Smith. And this person says this all the time. And I say, so when is it not a particularly bad time of year? None, right? So that's how the caretaker tends to justify their actions. Then there's the whack-a-mole. The whack-a-mole champ, named after the carnival game where you have these plastic moles that pop up and you have a rubber mallet and you whack them down as fast as you can. And yes, while sometimes it's tempting to take a rubber mallet to our meetings, the whack-a-mole says, I'm just removing obstacles. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do their work. The next is the flash. This is named after the DC Comics character that moves around super fast, super fast. And so the Flash simply says, I can just do this faster rather than having to explain it to everybody. Now, of course, each time you do it faster, it accrues, and now you're spending a lot more time than if you had just explained it to somebody. And then there's the straight A student. This is the person who says they're just not going to do as good a job. I had a client, Leanna, who had a big job, had just been promoted to head of marketing. And she said, you know, Sabina, I have 2 jobs. I do job number 1 during the day, then I have dinner with my family, and then I do job number 2 from 9 to midnight. What's job number 2? Well, I catch up on emails and all that, and then I have to clean the kitchen and load the dishwasher. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a second, Leanna. What do you mean you have to load the dishwasher and clean the kitchen? You have 4 kids who are all teenage aged. In other words, physically capable of doing that job. And what was Leanna's response? They won't load the dishwasher correctly. They tend to put the tines of the fork facing downward, and that could damage the fork tines over time. Obviously, straight A student. Okay, so take a moment, think about which one you might fall into, and what is the phrase you most commonly use when you cannot resist the lure of the sole provider. What do you say before you jump right into one of these things? Take a moment and write that down for yourselves. Feel free, if you're comfortable, to share those in chat. What do you say, and which sole provider do you fall into? Yes, yes. By the way, it's so interesting. As I did this work, you know, with my 12,000 pages of data, I did not find anything gendered in all 12,000 pages other than one of these sole providers, and that is the caretaker. Oh, I love this. A Flash in the office and a straight A student at home. Yeah, probably also worrying about the dishwasher. Yeah. Yeah. Where you've said, I'll help them because otherwise it won't be done well. Sounds like it's not just caretaker, it's a combo of caretaker and straight A student. I suffer from all of them. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So here's another slide to help you further with the diagnosis and perhaps to refine it. And here's what do these sole providers do? So the caretaker protects others even though they haven't asked. You know, somebody mentioned the God complex. Like, who asked you to jump in and help? But they do. The whack-a-mole, guilty, writes things on the to-do list even if they have been completed just so they have the satisfaction of checking them off. Man, I feel such great satisfaction when I do that. Clearly a tell. The Flash walks fast, talks fast, and listens to audio at 1.5 times the normal speed. Guilty. By the way, if you listen to my book on audio, because I'm a Flash, if you put that on 1.5 times speed, you will not be able to understand it. And lastly, the straight A student who's fretting and adjusting perpetually every colon and semicolon versus looking at the big picture or getting some more rest and self-care. Okay, so just take a moment and also write down. You already have a good sense of which of these you fall into. Take a moment and write down, what do you do in these kinds of situations? And again, if you're comfortable, feel free to enter in chat. What are the kinds of things you do when you fall into these situations? Yeah, and I'm not mentioning the names from chat just because I don't want to out you since this is being recorded and I don't know if you're comfortable being named. But the person who says, well, maybe I'm actually a whack-a-mole. Yeah, it takes time sometimes as you think through these to change your diagnosis to go, yeah, you know, actually that's a whack-a-mole disguised as a Flash. Yeah, and as you're seeing in chat, often it is a combination of more than one. For me, I'm definitely whack-a-mole, flash, and straight A student, all packaged into one, though I would say probably more of a recovering straight A student, but very much whack-a-mole and flash still. Okay. Here's what we're going to do next. As Christy mentioned, we're going to, recovering straight A student, caretaker. Oh my gosh. So somebody in chat says they're currently doing this. They're in the hospital with their dad's girlfriend, feeling this thoroughly. Yeah. 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 And when you're in between jobs, sometimes as I've talked to people in doing this workshop, sometimes these sole provider tendencies come up even more when you're less quote unquote busy, because we're so used to busy as a mantle of importance and as a shield to hide our insecurities or inadequacies, perhaps. So if you're in between jobs, it could be, not necessarily for this person, but it could be that I need to feel useful. I need to do something. And so you jump in both feet into sole provider instead of taking the time to do the things that most will move the needle for you in what you want in your life. All right. So what we're going to do next is let's start with one volunteer. We'll probably end up with 3. And if you're willing to volunteer, a reminder, this is being recorded. So keep that in mind if you want to volunteer. Would love for a volunteer to share what trap they fall into and what they say. And for those of you, the rest of you in this call, I'm going to call on you. So take notes, just like I'm about to do. Take notes of what the volunteer is saying and doing, because then we're going to be of service to the volunteer in a moment on how we're going to shift them and their thinking. So who would like to volunteer? You can just come off mute and speak, or...
I will.
And who is
Caitlin,
this?
this is Caitlin. Nice to meet everybody.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi.
And can we have Caitlin also spotlighted, please? There you are. Thanks, Caitlin. Okay, which year and which house?
I was in Northrop House class of 07, and with my team, I tend to end every one-on-one or anytime they're expressing what's going wrong, especially if I'm feeling pressure at work and in life, I tend to jump to ask them how I can help or what they need from me versus spending enough time saying, what's your plan? How are you thinking about this? So I think I logically know what the better solution is, but I'm not effective at keeping the string around my finger in moments of pressure to not just jump in and say, how can I help with this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what, Caitlin, you do. And assuming this is the caretaker.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I've been seen.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for volunteering. And
Yes.
then what is it? What is the dialogue in your head? What do you say to yourself when you open your mouth and say, how can I help? And what can I do for you? How do you justify this
Yeah,
action?
I'm usually either feeling impatient of like, okay, this is solvable. Like there's a path forward. It feels somewhat clear to get through it.
So
And
I
or
want to solve this, or I have the answer.
yeah, I want to
I
help
know
them
what
with
to do.
this.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Like we could just figure this out. I could help them figure this out, or at least give them direction to do that, which then, like you mentioned, they're going to lean on that versus doing it themselves. And I also very much related to your comment about it's a bad time of year. For me, it's usually they have a lot going on in life. Like they're probably thinking about Halloween and they got a little one and they're going to be trick-or-treating tomorrow. So like, let me try and help
Yeah.
them, even though they're not asking that way, knowing, life is busy.
Yeah. Life is busy. I can help them. Bad time of year. They've got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Make sure, people, you're taking notes of these. Okay. So here's what we're going to do next. So first of all, it's already great work if you can start to diagnose this. Caitlin, I'm curious, actually, as you diagnose it, as we've given it a name now, what did that do for you?
it makes me realize I don't want to be doing this everywhere. I have two little kids at home, so naming it a caretaker feels like, oh, I definitely do not want to spend
Yes,
the time I spend caretaking. I have little
yeah,
humans I want to pour that into, not
yes.
grown-ass adults.
Well, so what's also interesting, Caitlin, as you said, two little kids, I thought, are you going to jump in and do the non-helpful part of caretaking with your kids as well? So when they're grown as adults, are you still tying their shoelaces for
I
them?
am very different with
Oh,
I probably
interesting.
hold a better line with my kids
Huh.
than, yeah.
That's so
Yep.
interesting. Okay. All right. Okay. Great. So hang tight. I'm going to walk everyone through what we're going to do next with Caitlin. It sounds ominous, Caitlin. It's not. Hopefully, this will be of help to you. So, what do we do once we've diagnosed the where we are and what we say and do? The next thing you want to do is triple your narrative. So Caitlin's narrative has a single-threaded, it has a single-threaded theme to it, which is I can, or maybe double. I can do this. I can help them, and they've got a lot going on. Life is busy. It's a bad time of year. It's Halloween tomorrow, and they've got little ones, right? So that's her narrative. What we want to do for yourselves and right now in service of Caitlin is expand that narrative. Help her think through this in different ways. And you know what? I actually forgot to do the poll of what kind of sole provider are you? So Caitlin, hold on. We're going to put a pin in this and first go into, let's just run the poll to see, to make sure Caitlin is not alone. What kind of sole provider are you? Now, you can check as many of these as you want. Go ahead and hit submit so we can see the poll results. Wow. Remember, I said it was gendered, and it's certainly showing up here, even though it may not be a statistically significant number. 91% at caretaker, followed by straight A student. Of course, the Smith education, you could say, probably self-selects straight A students to begin with. And then we've got whack-a-mole and flash. All right, I'm feeling a little slightly more lonely in my whack-a-mole and flash tendencies, though I'm in good company with straight A. Thank you for filling that out. And Caitlin, clearly you're not alone. So let's talk about what it means to triple the narrative. Before I even share that, what it means to triple the narrative, I'm curious if anyone has a guess. What would it mean to triple the narrative that Caitlin has in her head? Just throw out a guess. Straight A students, you don't have to get it perfectly right. Just experiment.
Add maybe like 2 additional perspectives.
Exactly right, Maggie. So let's look at what that might look like. What are some additional perspectives we could add? So here are just some examples. Again, take a picture of this slide or make a note of this because we're going to ask you to help Caitlin triple her narrative, okay? As the full-blooded caretaker, she's in the worst position to triple her own narrative, so we're going to do that for her. One could be, what's the worst case scenario? Well, I'm blocking their upward visibility by jumping in and taking care of them. They're not getting any exposure upward. There could also be a best case, and the best case is they will find this helpful because they're buried or because it's Halloween tomorrow, etc. Another would be, how would someone seeing you describe this? Oh, he's hogging the limelight. She's taking up all the space. Okay. What have you said in hindsight later on? Or when the same person comes back for the 5th time with the same kind of request, you might say by spoon feeding them, they never received feedback, and here's the same mistake over and over again. And this is one of my favorites, is what would you tell a friend in this situation? Because you know what's very interesting is deep down, we're also all a little bit hypocritical. A little bit hypocritical. We provide the most generous, gracious advice to our friends that we don't follow ourselves. So pretend that you're a friend. What would you tell them? Hey, you know, maybe you don't know what they will find helpful. Okay, so that's what we're going to do around tripling the narrative for Caitlin. Before we do that, any questions on what it means to triple the narrative? Because this is going to be heavy audience participation. I'm going to ask you to chime in a whole bunch of narratives for Caitlin in a moment. We're not just going to triple it, we're going to multiply it by 15. So she has some things to choose from. Any questions? Okay, everybody captured these ideas. I'm going to stop sharing. All right. And here we're going to do something a little bit weird, Caitlin, if you're willing, is
I'm
just
willing.
of course you are. Thank you. Just for this portion, I'm gonna ask you to turn off your video and stay on mute. And here's why. We're gonna be brainstorming. We might say things that may or may not hit the mark. We don't want to be unduly influenced by Caitlin's body language. And we also want to give Caitlin some space and privacy to process her own reactions as she hears us brainstorm. Is everybody ready? Are you ready to brainstorm for Caitlin and help triple her narrative? Awesome. Caitlin makes a terrible poker player, she says. All right. So what are some ideas for Caitlin? How might she triple the narrative? What other stories or sentences can she form in her head the next time somebody comes and asks for help where they really should be doing it on their own? Or before she jumps in and says, how can I help? What else, what other narratives can she use other than, I know what to do, I can help them figure this out, life is busy, let's get going, they have a lot going on. Those are her narratives. What else can we have her say instead in her head?
How can I upskill this team member?
Okay, so yeah, how can I upskill them? Great. Thank you, Kim. And Kim, thank you for joining late at night your time.
It's okay. It's not too late.
Okay,
She could say,
Lucy?
what would I tell my kids?
Sorry, what would I what?
What would I tell my kids?
Oh, beautiful. Yes, because yeah, Lucy, you were clearly listening very carefully because here's the thing. Caitlin is not unskilled at this. She says, oh no, I do this really well at home. So, well, cut and paste from there to here. What would I tell my kids? What else?
I really loved what she said when she was just talking about it. And she was like, you know, I really should be saying, you know, what are you thinking about how you're going to handle this? Right. Like having them problem solve it instead of having her problem solve it, I think.
So great, Holly. Yeah. So she might tell herself in her head, how can I get them to solve this? How can I get them to solve it? You know, or what question can I ask them that will help them solve it? What else? Other ideas? Feel free to add in chat as well if you don't want to speak up. But let's see if we can get Caitlin like a dozen different ideas.
I think it's sometimes the manager's job to offer context and maybe like an alternative perspective or more information that your direct report might not have access to help them do that self-solutioning. So what context can I offer as opposed to like, how can I solve this problem?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. What you're also elevating here is be role appropriate. Is my role to jump in and do the work, or is my role to do the context? Because by jumping in and doing the work, if she's a manager, she's actually not doing her own job. So brilliant, brilliant. What else? Anything else for Caitlin?
What's blocking you from doing the work?
Yeah. So thinking about what might be their blockers. So context might be one. What else is a blocker for this person? Yeah. Thanks, Thandeka. What else?
You could feature pace them as well and get them to think about the outcome.
So
You know,
yeah, so go ahead, Thandeka. Finish your thought.
Yeah, get them to think beyond the doing, but think
Yes.
about the outcome to say, if you to do this well, what would it look like? And what
Mm.
would it feel like? Maybe
Mhm.
tap into the emotions as well.
Great, great. So are they focused on the outcome, and how can I get them to focus on the outcome? Yeah. And then in chat, there is helping them break down the problem into manageable parts. Yeah. And the other piece, the other problem with how Caitlin might be taking it on potentially is that she then jumps in and takes it all hook, line, and sinker. And she's now got this huge thing that she's not only jumping in and helping where it's not appropriate or perhaps even not needed, she's got the whole thing. But if she helps them break it down into smaller pieces, there might be 1 or 2 pieces where it's appropriate for her to jump in, but there might be 9 or 10 other pieces that they can now go and do. Yeah, these are brilliant. Anything else?
I was also thinking about how Caitlin was talking about how they might be having other things going on in their lives and busy and juggling things, and thinking the additional narrative is, well, that's normal. Is there anything that is abnormal that I do
Oh,
need to be paying attention to? Otherwise, that's just life.
beautiful. Wow. Wow. I am so glad this session is being recorded because I'm actually going to take some of these examples for future workshops. How wonderful to normalize what people are going through. Because who doesn't have all that kind of stuff going on? We saw that in our own conversation, right? The majority of you were at a 9, 8 or a 9 in terms of pressure. Beautiful, beautiful. And you know what? That actually helps the person even more, because if you go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, you've got so much going on, you're so busy, guess what's happening? Their pressure and their cortisol, their stress hormone is rising even further. They're like, yeah, right, it sucks to be me. Versus if you normalize it, it goes, oh, I'm not the only one here who is feeling this way. This is normal. This is human. Let's now figure out how to deal with this in a healthy fashion. Beautiful, beautiful. Nicole, were you about to say
Oh,
something?
yeah. Maybe how might I lean into this person's strengths to make
Yes.
accomplishing this task more doable?
Beautiful, beautiful. Lean into their strengths, or, I am looking at this. So the narrative in her head might be, I'm looking at this from a deficiency standpoint. What if I looked at it from a sufficiency standpoint? How are they fully functioning adults? What are their strengths? How have they just got this? And what can I do to think about it that way? So switching her own thinking on that.
Hmm. We could also get them to explore their emotions.
Beautiful.
Because emotions drive people. Yeah, what are you feeling about this, and what are those feelings telling you?
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes. So instead of just taking on their emotions and jumping in to rescue them, thinking about what their emotions might be. I want to make a distinction between the incredibly amazing input you all are providing. When we're tripling the narrative, conceptually, what that means is what Caitlin's telling herself in her head, not what she's jumping in and doing. But you all, this is great because you're going to the next piece, which is what's an action Caitlin should take. So you've got both these things in here. I just want to make that distinction to say Caitlin's got to change the narrative inside her head first, because guess what? The narrative Caitlin says about whatever the situation is or the person is going to inform the action she takes. So our narratives dictate our actions. So we're trying to get her to expand that narrative and then take some of the actions that were also surfacing for Caitlin. All right, great. So Caitlin, come on back. What was that like for you?
Oh, got halfway there. It was helpful to hear some of the suggestions, and I think just reinforcing for when I verbalized what I was doing, and then my head could already hear like, of course, that's not productive for them or for me. So hearing a lot of other people say it was motivating and clarifying.
Wonderful. What's one action you might take out of this discussion?
I think for the your clarification, Sabina, at least in my own head, I think just first, Megan, chat, you mentioned the action maybe of breaking it down into smaller parts, but in my head, even just thinking, this is all solvable, right? Like not even a best case scenario, but there's a clear path forward with most of the time, especially when I'm proactively offering, doesn't
Yeah.
require my support. So just being able to think in my head, like, okay, all of this is solvable and there's tangible steps that they will see, or they will ask a question if they need help seeing it.
I think there's a slight difference because initially when you were talking, it says this is all solvable and I need to solve it. It's solvable by me, as opposed to this is all solvable by them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Caitlin,
Thank you.
volunteering. How are we feeling about this, folks? Do we want, is there someone else who's willing to volunteer? I think we have time for one more person.
Sabina, can you just clarify what the exercise is like? What are we volunteering for exactly?
Doing exactly what Caitlin did.
Okay, so like sharing a scenario.
Sharing your scenario, what your narrative is, and then we will help you triple your narrative, and then we'll help you identify some next steps.
Okay, I'm happy to go. I can do
Okay.
that. Okay.
And good luck, Caitlin. In true caretaker fashion, she has to jump off early. I'm teasing you. All right, Maggie, thank you. So
Yeah.
what's your particular sole provider tendency? Which one do you want to focus on?
Sure. Well, I have this tendency to be kind of like a fierce advocate for my team, for the people who report to me. And so I get into a dynamic with leadership where I'm kind of like the squeaky wheel advocating for everybody else. And it sometimes gets me not into trouble, but it doesn't set me up for success and collaboration with my leadership.
Got it. Yeah. So, and then in terms of the sole provider types, then we're talking about the caretaker, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, what do you tell yourself when you jump in to be that fierce advocate?
Well, yeah, I think at this point I am one of the highest ranking members of the team. That I sort of get into the details that, I'm making like a third less of the money that the leadership team is making, but I'm doing like 3 times as much more work, and so is the rest of my team. And I can't see what my leadership is doing, and that's really frustrating. And I don't think they're making great decisions, and that's really frustrating. And I feel like I am responsible for my teammates' success and success, and also like getting what they want to get out of work, I suppose.
Yes. Okay. So you're the sole provider, responsible for providing fulfillment and recognition and reward for everybody on your team.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So in terms of some narratives that Maggie has, folks, it's about we deserve this. My team works really hard. Senior leadership is not earning their paycheck. They're not transparent enough, and I need to jump in and do this because I'm the most senior person who can voice this. Does that sound roughly like the narrative that you tell yourself?
Yes.
Maggie? All right. So we've got those talk tracks well worn in Maggie's brain. How might we expand some of that for her? So what are some other things she could tell herself instead of these? So similar to Caitlin, go ahead, everyone, speak up when you have a thought. Yes, and thanks, Maggie, for turning off your video.
Oh, one question I would ask is it helpful? Is it always helpful to be advocating?
Yeah. And maybe another question related to that might be, what is going to be the impact of this particular advocacy that I'm about to do? One positive impact, one negative impact, perhaps. Okay. What else?
Maybe something like, what is the mental toll of being resentful?
Yep. What's the mental toll around resentfulness? What else?
Is there something about guessing if teammates are feeling unfulfilled versus knowing?
Yes. So what do I know? What do I know about the situation that I'm jumping in to carry the flag for? Okay, and then in a chat, what's a realistic expectation for my level of responsibility for the team's fulfillment? Great, great. What else? Let's get another half a dozen of these out there for Maggie.
Hey, this is Holly. I keep thinking about the transparency of the senior team and like how you can kind of get more involved with, or how one could get more involved with like figuring out what they are doing. Because it always,
Yeah,
there seems to be a lot of stuff that happens in the back that they don't talk about.
yeah, yeah,
But becoming an advocate that way.
yeah. So that would be an action versus a narrative of like, how can I go find out more about what the senior team is doing and thinking, and actually take steps to do that, to remove that veil of opaqueness for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a thought, right? Like it's also thinking about like, how is this going to impact? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks,
because
Holly.
I've
Yes.
done that where I've kind of cut a tie that I didn't necessarily want to cut. So
Oh dear. Yeah. So we can benefit from your experience. Thank you. Yes. What else?
Maybe I could also get her to explore whether there could be an unconscious payoff for always advocating for others.
Uh-huh. Say more. What would be an unconscious payoff example?
Maybe there could be a paradoxical need there where she actually wants to be advocated for.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. Oh gosh, Tandekas, thank you. So helpful. Like, what are the hungers I am trying to feed by doing this? Is how much of this is a projection? How much of
Right.
this is an unmet need of my own that I'm trying to advocate for others?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Another would be maybe Maggie is like channeling her inner warrior. She used the word fierce. And how something like, how much am I in disagreement on this, actually? Does she see even 1% disagreement and it's time to pick up the fierce battle cry? Or is it like at 99%? Any other narratives you would give, Maggie?
I just have one that keeps coming up for me, which is like, where is everyone else? Right? Like,
Yes.
are you alone in it, and why?
Yes. Oh, because yes, of course, Christy, because everyone else will let you do it. You know, they'll all go, great idea, great idea. And then suddenly you look back and nobody's there on the thin ice with you. You've got a big target painted in your back. Everybody else is in the safety of the shore, giving you a polite little golf clap. You go, Maggie, good job. As she's endangering herself. Yeah. Any last thoughts for Maggie?
Yeah, I think, and I'm kind of talking it through on processing, but have I considered other intentions of management? Because I think sometimes
Yes.
I
Yes.
might assume that their intentions are negative, and so that kind
Yes.
of creates
Yes.
more frustration, but there could be other things going on at the top that I have.
Yes. Yes. So well put, Nicole. Half of my book is around pressure. The other half is around power, and it's about navigating the intersection of those. And power is like a broken volume knob. Everything employees say upward is muted. It's milder than what they're experiencing. It's cushioned in praise. So when they say everything's fine, that means that I've started a secret group chat to talk about your management habits. But meanwhile, everything that's coming down to us is amplified. It's personalized. It's catastrophized. So when a manager says, hey, can we chat? It sounds to you like, oh, hope you said goodbye to your office plants, right? So taking a pause there and checking that. Great, great idea, Nicole. Anything else for Maggie? Okay, so we've got a number of narratives. You'll have done a great job coming up with a number of narratives. Let me check in with Maggie. Maybe she has ideas of how she translates this into a next step. And if not, we can do some more brainstorming about next steps. What was that like for you, Maggie?
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thanks, everybody. A lot of it are thoughts that have popped into my head from time to time, but it's helpful to hear a lot of that being reinforced. I think one of the biggest takeaways is like, what hill do I want to die on? And yeah, and I think it's just not good to feel that way all the time. It's not good for myself.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I think getting a good idea of sort of like more of a unified effort and what do we want to advocate as a team for, as opposed to what me as an individual can advocate for, is a good next step. So I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering. And thank you all. Yes, this is a really high quality set of input that everybody is providing. So thank you very much for that. So that's what you do is you, when we're thinking about sole provider, is you identify who you are, you diagnose that, then you, and by diagnosis, I mean, what do you say? What's your narrative? And then what do you do? And then once you've got that, you think about how do you triple that narrative? And from tripling that narrative, what's one next step, one low risk situation where you might go and experiment on this? If I can now have my spotlight removed, so we can see everybody in gallery view, and let's open it up for comments, discussion. Before we do that, just take a moment. You've got this very rich set of ideas that we had for Caitlin and Maggie. Write down 2 other narratives you can add in your own head for your sole provider trap. Pick one of your sole provider traps. Write down a couple of narratives right now while this is still fresh in your head. And then we're going to open up for comments in a moment. For those of you who have finished writing, you will also shortly see in chat a link. This link will take you to my Substack, which is called Pressure Proof, which you're welcome to sign up for. So if you want to sign up for that, I send out emails once or twice a month on topics like this. So that link is in chat. Feel free to go for it. All right, so let's talk about what are some of your reflections. What are you taking away? What's standing out for you? And or additional ideas you might want to share or any questions that you have.
Sabina, one of the things that was coming up for me quite a bit, especially as we were talking about caretakers, is this sense of responsibility for offering support to your team and how that can be differentiated from this kind of pitfall that we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'd love it if you might be able to speak a little bit more to that, because
Brilliant.
I'm sure that
Brilliant.
a lot of people are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And not just for your team, but for your friends, for your partner, for your children, whoever. So here's the thing, the vision you have, the vision we have, we want to be supportive. We want to do high quality work. We want to be fast and efficient. We want to get a lot done. We want to be productive. Those are great things. That vision is great. So hang on to the vision, change the methodology. Not 100% of the time. Like maybe most of the time you're doing it appropriately. It's the times where later you're feeling resentful, burned out, exhausted, grouchy, grumpy, that pressure is now corrupting you. So practically speaking, what might this look like? I know Caitlin has left, but if she were here, I would say something like, instead of saying, how can I help? I would do the things that you all suggested, right? What have you thought about? Hey, this is normal. I get it, etc. But instead of saying, how can I help? She might say, after she's asked those good questions, sounds like you've got some things to go try out, I'm available to hear what you've come up with and support you once you do. Simply leaving that meeting without that monkey on your back, giving it to them, 9 times out of 10, people won't come back and ask you because they figured out a way to be more self-sufficient. This is a true story. 2 years ago, a friend of mine, I'm an executive coach. I do this kind of stuff for a living. And she had just gone through a divorce, young kids, all kinds of nasty things going on. And she said, I need to get back to the workforce. Will you spend 10 minutes looking at my resume? Now, it doesn't take me 10 minutes to look at a resume. It takes me 2 hours. Which is not blaming her because she doesn't know that I do these kinds of things for a living. And at that point in time, I was having a particularly stressful time in my life. And I'm like, I don't know how to, I really want to support her. And I don't know how to carve out 2 hours in my life right now. And so I simply responded and said, so glad you're doing this. Absolutely, I'm willing to support you. Do you have a resume ready right now? Oh, no, I don't. So here I was, already ready to jump in, stressing myself out. She hasn't even started writing her resume. Okay. So then what I said was, okay, great. When you have your resume, let me know. And depending on my schedule, we can figure out a timeline. Guess what? That was 2 years ago. I haven't heard from her yet. She's doing other things to generate income instead of going back to the workforce. What would I have done? Thrown myself over there, even gone, oh, you haven't started your resume? I know you. Let me get it started for you. Right? And it would have been throwaway work. So put the ball in their court. First by giving them something to do, and then have them come back. Many of them won't come back. Ask people about the timeline. By when are you looking for this? That will also give you, more often than not, if you are in that flash or caretaker mode, more often than not, you're thinking, oh, it's got to be done this week. They're like, oh yeah, sometime in the next month. Oh, great. I can do that on the airplane when I'm flying to Singapore. What other thoughts or comments do you have? Or questions? And while we're pondering questions and thoughts and comments, Dana is also about to drop a link into chat to my book and my website. So you can buy the book wherever books are sold. There's a whole bunch of links there. And oh, by the way, once you buy the book, you can go back to my website and download for free a number of the worksheets and tools that the book talks about. Okay, any other thoughts, comments, questions? I'm also super curious to know, what are you taking away? What are you taking away from this?
Well, this has just been really profoundly helpful. So I'm a processor.
Awesome, Nicole.
I'm processing. I think, first of all, just this concept of pressure corrupts is really reminding me to take this seriously, right? Because I tend to be a lot in high pressure environments.
Yeah.
So one of my suggestions, and I didn't hear it until you fed it back, was like not to look at things from a deficiency lens, but a sufficiency. So really considering the strengths that I might be able to kind of lean in and amplify.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am the first to always say, how can I help?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to be using new
Yeah.
language moving forward.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Great. I'm glad, Nicole. That's quite a few takeaways. Others, thoughts? What are you taking away?
Sabina, we just have a more tactical question in the chat about worksheets, and if you get them, if you buy the audiobook, because someone wants to listen
Yes.
to you on 1.5 X.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be a mistake to listen to me on 1.5 because I speak fast already. Yes, you would get those worksheets from audiobooks as well. And if you buy an audiobook, you also get a PDF of some of the tables and charts. Because remember, I'm trained in engineering. So once an engineer, always an engineer. I have just these very practical, tactical tools that have a number of tables and things like that. And you'll get that even with the audiobook in a PDF, so you can look through those. Yeah, you'll have pages that look like this, right? So you can do more diagnosis work. I'm taking away that thinking less about myself and more about others is usually better. You know, this is such a brilliant comment. This is such a brilliant comment because the sole provider on the surface looks very selfless. It's all about them. I'm jumping in, or all about the project. But actually, a lot of it is feeding those unmet hungers. By the way, that table I showed you is about your unmet hungers. Like, oh, I'm wrapped around with my own narrative. And how can I expand that and think of this from someone else's perspective? That I might be blocking their visibility, their training, their development, their growth. I might be frustrating them and burning them out in turn. Well, fantastic. I'm curious now. If you think about one word, and by the way, it's okay to cheat and hyphenate it. What's one word or one hyphenated phrase? And I would love to see comments from everybody in chat if possible. What's one word that captures your state of mind now as a result of this conversation? Go ahead and enter those words in chat. Awareness. Yeah, the first step, right, Holly? Expanded, relieved, recentered, awesome. Sideline, I'm not sure I understand sideline. If you're comfortable, would you go off mute and expand on that, please?
I said sideline in terms of me not being at the center and staying on the sides more.
Yes.
To
Wonderful.
support the team from
Wonderful.
supporting the team from the sides rather than the center.
Yes. Yes. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Deflect, clarity, and uncentered. Say more about uncentered if you're comfortable commenting on that.
Yeah, more so that it's not about me all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So not centering on me. Yeah. Lovely. Lovely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, fabulous. Detached. Yes. Yes. Part of this is because we're so over attached, right? We've just jumped in. They've opened their mouth and you're like, cape flying in. And so how might I detach for a moment? How might I take a second to just think, a microsecond, to just think through this with all the different narrative shifters that you all came up with? Beautiful. Well, this was amazing. It has actually expanded my mind to additional ways to triple the narrative that is incredibly helpful in my work and for myself as a card-carrying member of 3 of the 4 sole provider tendencies. I'm going to hand this back to Christy.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. I'm going to amplify what Nicole put in the chat about walking away feeling a little bit of like a relief. It's not all sitting right here on these shoulders kind of a thing. So I just really appreciate how practical the framings that you shared. You know, so much starts with your mindset. I think that's something that comes up in a lot of our sessions, right? Is that a lot of this just starts with your internal monologue, the things that you're telling yourself. And so taking a moment to just rewrite that narrative. And one of the things that I always say is talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. And I think, Sabina, that came through in your messaging as well, right? Just thinking about those things when we're speaking to ourselves about how we are in the world and the impact that we're having. So just so thrilled that everyone participated today. I hope that you enjoyed our time together today. I hope you feel like you're walking away from this session with access to a new couple people to turn to next time you're feeling a little bit of pressure. I'll amplify a few things that we have that can help you tap back into your Smith network. I just want to make sure everyone is aware of the Smith Network platform. This is a tool, it's a digital platform that allows you to connect with your fellow Smithies. And we have a bunch of career resources in that platform itself that you can access as well. We have things that help you upskill, like free LinkedIn learning access. We have industry groups where you can connect with folks in your fields. We have the content from all of our amazing coaching sessions and coaches like Sabina. We also have a space where you can reach out to and connect with our coaches if you're looking for more hands-on one-on-one support. So want to make sure everyone is aware. Dana is dropping the link to our website in the chat. And on that page, you'll see reference to all of these resources. You'll be able to find our upcoming events and other workshops that we're hosting over the next year, and ways to just stay connected. So please, please, please connect back into your Smith community. It is a community here for you to support you. Dana and I are also here. So we're just thrilled to have had you and hope you're coming away feeling like you have a new perspective around pressure. So thanks everyone for joining, and I hope that we will see you again on a future workshop. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.